Welcome to the CEN show, a platform where we learn from the world's community. This evening, we got a treat for everybody. We're going to be talking to Professor Rahh, and our guest is going to sort of like interview him. So it's going to be a good thing because we're going to bring up some history on Professor Rahh and times in Compton and in LA. So it should be a good evening. Let me introduce everybody. We got Professor Rahh, our master teacher. That's what I call him on here. We got Dr. Charles Alexander, one of our new team members. And we got somebody coming in too. And we got our other, I'm gonna call him junior master teacher, Brother Mashinda. And we have our guest, Brother CB, here this evening. And let me tell you a little bit about Brother CB. I've actually been knowing him for years. It's just that we had to piece together where we actually were in contact. He's a basketball player. I played basketball. And what happened was we have this, he has a Marco Polo group. We all meet on Marco Polo. I haven't met with them in a while, but we go on there and we talk about basketball a lot. And I think they talk about baseball, football. And it's a humdinger thing to go on that platform and talk to them about basketball. It gets kind of rowdy and we have a lot of fun. But what I noticed about the brother, he's an independent thinker, and he doesn't just let things, just go as they are. He brings his input, and he's a careful thinker about things that he talks about, and I appreciate that about him. But we have somebody here on the. We got iPhone 110. Would you like to introduce yourself? I don't know who you are. iPhone 110, are you just listening or?
Hi, I'm Sean Smith. I'm Chris's fiance. I'm actually a bit.
Okay, I'm just gonna say you Chris's wife. That's excellent. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Appreciate you coming. All right. So brother CB.
Yes, sir.
Let's get started, man, because this is a treat for me. It really is.
So I call him OG. So OG asked me to come on and do something on the podcast. I'm shy. I'm not really the kind of person that does the kind of thing, but I do. Here we are. I had the pleasure to talk to Mr. Rahh yesterday briefly. Kind of went over some things. So what I wanted to do was contrast and compare. And because I've only heard about him, I grew up in Compton. I grew up on Oleander and Kitchener. Also grew up on Poinsett and Burrs, right around from Atlantic, from 100 and Long Beach Boulevard, around the corner from the Taco Bell, where the dairy used to be and the Sons and Brothers Club used to be. So I've always heard about him. So when I talked to him yesterday, I had a plan, and it just went totally left because I've never spoke to him before. I just got lost in what he was saying, things he was telling me about, to grow up in Compton my whole life and not know certain things existed and things like that. So it just turned into a big old history lesson. So my questions kind of come from the conversations we had that I didn't really have time to get input into. So I wanted to start off with Centennial High School, 1966. What was Professor Rahh like in 1966 as a senior in high school?
Appreciate what you asked to understand you correctly. I just want to, let me just qualify a couple of things before we get started. When you start looking at your life, it has many dimensions, any person. And Dr. Alexander, who's on there, can attest to that. Each individual see the world through their eyes and they understand it through their experiences. some borrow from others and some are just unique and be themselves. And when it comes to my personal experience, you know, I evolved into Professor Rahh. I was never thinking I'd ever teach. To me, each person's world is how they see the world, how they see Earth, how they see space, because we're already in space. The Earth is in space. So we space beings. And my point is that as you live out your life, it has many dimensions, many layers, and you have many personalities and many mindsets to each situation that you evolve into. So when you asked me about Centennial, I was not Professor Rahh, as I said. I was Arthur Montgomery Jr. I was named after my father. And I went to, as I told you the other day, grew up in Watts. My first consciousness was in the projects, in the Pueblos, which you knew about. And, you know, I reflect on the life, and I have to thank the creator of the universe and the creator of whatever our existence came into being for navigating me through all the challenges and experiences that were detrimental and problematic. And some people don't get through them for whatever reason, you know, and maybe that's what the creator of the universe wanted to do, to set an example so that you feel blessed and feel unique. I mean, in order to understand, to appreciate life, you have to have depth. If you didn't have depth, you wouldn't appreciate life. And you know, and you have to appreciate your time. Sometimes you have to mature into that. So when I was at Centennial, I was just a high school kid that played basketball, but I went to a lot of experiences before I got to high school. I went to Markham Junior High, I went to in Watts. That was an experience, and I reflect on it. And, you know, we walked from Alameda all the way to Compton Avenue in Watts to get to Markham. And it was a unique walk with people. And then at the same time, you see things. And you don't know you're going to reflect on those experiences. One time I took my kids, every time I take my kids to a ride, show them all the neighborhoods I grew up in, and let them, so that they will appreciate where they are today. I show them the projects. I show them the house in Watts, all the houses in Watts. We had 3 of them. I show them other people that's living in those same places, not necessarily the houses, but the projects, so that they can say, I say, you know, that's why you have to strive. But anyway, getting back to me, as I said, I started playing basketball, and I'm not a basketball player. That's something I did. Because I had a personality as a human being. And I'm Black first, I'm African first, I'm a human first. And some people think what they do becomes them. And I understand that mindset, because at that time when I was coming to school, I would say I was a basketball player. Until I came into a consciousness that, you know, we all have multidimensional experiences. And so you become that experience. You know, one time I was a thief. One time I was a thug. One time I was a boxer. I was fighting. You understand? I had a reputation for that. And one time I was then I, you know, anyway, you grow, you mature. None of my kids had fights in school. When I got to high school, I was retiring from fighting because I wanted to play basketball. but I made sure that my kids didn't have the mindset that I had, that my parents didn't give it to me because they didn't know I needed a mindset. All they think I needed was some food and some direction. Go to school. You understand? So anyway, as I went through all those experiences in Watts, you know, my friends, my partners, they changed as we moved. But at the same time, the principles of friendship stayed the same. You know, we fought with each other, and we fought for each other, and we fought against each other, physically, and sometimes just in the concept of understanding women and girls and things of that nature. So it's a unique experience. Education is not just in books. It's what you see and analyze and learn from as you grow. Some people stay immature, some mature. And I had to mature at an early age, but that's a whole new different story. But anyway, I was not, when I got to Centennial, you know, as I told you, I played basketball, but I was stabbed on campus in 1965. I was a junior, and you know, we were Lettermans, and his brother got in a dispute with me. He left campus, came back and stabbed me in the side, and I was in the hospital in Bandera Hospital right there off of Wilmington and Compton Boulevard for 3 days. And it was right during basketball season. I missed the first 3 games, 3 or 4, maybe 5. But I still came back and played. And you know, so it was a beautiful experience. After I left Centennial, I went to, I got a scholarship. But before that, 1965, before I got there, the summer of 65, there was a Watts Rebellion. And I was in it. I mean, we was all up on Imperial Highway 103rd. We was expropriating things from stores, and anything white we threw bricks at. And most people like to call it a riot. And when I was at Centennial, I called it the Watts Riot. Before I became educated and started calling it the Watts Revolt. But that's an whole different story. Because I didn't know that we were revolting at the time that I was participating. I was just out there with the masses, and we already didn't like white folks. And so, you know, I didn't need no motivation. You understand? So we did that. Anything white better be off the streets, because we was throwing bricks at everything white. And then we were going in all the stores up and down Vermont taking stuff. That's when I got, you know, anyway. But anyway, I got arrested, and I ended up going to juvenile hall for 45 days. And my basketball mentor, Mr. Newman, came to court and testified for me, along with Reverend Mosley, who I used to go to church with every now and then. And they gave me probation for a year, and I had to report. And one of the persons I reported to, she was a clerk or something up there with Omar Bradley's mother. And so we met. I didn't know none of the Bradley boys at that time, but she was working there. And anyway, I went on, graduated, and I had a reputation.
Excuse me, Professor Rahh. Can you tell us who Omar Bradley is so the audience will know?
Omar Bradley was he became the mayor of Compton, and me and him got incarcerated when we was in captivity on trumped up charges by the DA who wanted to take over the city and things of this nature because they didn't want a black consulate. But I'll get to that. But Omar Bradley, I taught him at Long Beach State when I was teaching and helped him get elected and stuff like that. And then I became a city councilor later. But anyway, going back to Idaho, I never left Watts to Compton or Willowbrook. And when I got on the plane and went to Idaho, I didn't even know how to dress. I mean, I'm wearing Italian bossa nova shirts. And when that winter came in, I didn't even have an overcoat. And I never seen snow. I never was in snow. I'm an asphalt jungle brother. I gotta have me some street. I gotta hear some sirens. I gotta see little kids run up and down the street with diapers hanging off. I mean, I just was straight off the streets. But I went up there, and that's North Idaho, right below Alaska, is where the white nationalists live. But I didn't even know that. But they didn't teach us none of this in school.
Professor Rahh, excuse me again. So you saying out of high school, you went to Idaho on a basketball scholarship?
Yeah, junior college, because I had a reputation as a gang member. And I didn't pass the ACT test a lot. I got letters from everybody, every school you can think of for a scholarship, but they wouldn't take me. Utah came out and took me to dinner and stuff in Arizona, all that. But that's the only school I visited. But because they were mad at black people for the revolt, at that time, a lot of black brothers were just going to the service. They were getting drafted. Or they had jobs, got some girl pregnant. And they had, so it wasn't easy to get a scholarship unless you had somebody sponsoring you. I didn't have nobody sponsoring me because I'd gotten arrested. It was all in the newspaper. And plus, I was known for just gang activity. So I never got a 4-year scholarship at that time. I got a 2-year scholarship. And they were a national junior college. They played all over. We flew to Oregon, Utah, Arizona. Not like California, where everybody played in California. Community college is national. And I was doing good, but my father had terminal cancer. So I had to leave. He got real sick. And our parents couldn't handle it. My mother couldn't handle it. Because his mind was going. And my kids, my sisters and brothers couldn't handle it. So, I said, okay, I left at the semester. I came home, got a job. Bob Simmons, who mentored me, he knew I was going to do some dirty stuff to take care of my family. Because he knew he had heard of me. And he saw me, and me and my partner were finna do something wrong. And he said, Sleepy, they called me Sleepy, that was my nickname. And he had heard, he said, look, man, I can get you a job, don't do nothing crazy. And so he gave me a job as a security guard. And so I had to drop out of school for a semester because I wouldn't play for Compton College. They wouldn't give me no help. White coaches, no help. I didn't even know about financial aid then. They didn't, anything like that, or work study or none of that. So I had to quit playing. I set out a semester. And then Bob gave me a job. So the next year I went back. I won a scholarship. I made all Western State Conference and third in score in the conference. So Jerry Tarkanian, Hall of Fame coach now. He was a junior college champion from Pasadena. And I knew some of the brothers that was on the team. And that was in 1968. And that's when there was a boycott of a black athletic revolt with Kareem and all of them. They refused to play in the Olympics. So they took junior college players, and that's how Spencer Haywood got in, and Tark was the coach of it. And so then, after they finished with the Olympics, he came back, and then he got the job at Long Beach State. They were just turning Division I. So he offered me a scholarship to play guard. And I said, okay. So all summer I played guard. But when we got to Long Beach State, they were so racist, he had to put at least 2 white boys on the team. One white boy was already there, but he recruited another white boy. So he made me a strong forward, and anyway, or power forward. Because they wouldn't rebound. They didn't come from Mona Park. They didn't know that you had to fight. And so anyway, I did 2 years there. We won and all that. But the first thing I did when I got on campus, and Tark would tell people all the time, it blew his mind. All the other athletes want to know where financial aid is, where the library is, where EOP is, and all that. I said, where's the BSU? You understand? So I met the BSU members, and I immediately told them I was coming and got involved with the Black Student Union. We had started a Black Student Union at Compton College in 1967. Me and a brother named Earl Frazier, Michael Daniels, John Lewis, he went to Compton High. And that's how the first BSU got started at Compton College, because we came out of the Black Rebellion, the Black movement. That was just something I just felt attracted to, committed to. And so I got into BSU. They elected me sergeant at arms. And so I came and tell everybody, I brought all the players up here to Long Beach, and they wanted to know this and know that, but Sleek just wanted to go and be with the BSU. Yeah, so, and he would always, when he introduced the players, he'd tell that story. So anyway, we went on and we did pretty good. But I became activist on campus, and we was very active. That was one of the strongest BSUs in the history of Black Student Union. I mean, they made them give them space in the bookstore. They had a special place for us to eat. Then we pushed for Black studies, and they said that we couldn't get it. We went through 3 presidents in 1 year. They all quit. We went in the libraries, glued the books with permanent glue, and we just tore up the school, stole all their TVs, beat up white boys walking down the street. So they conceded. They said, okay, y'all can have it, Black studies. And when we got to Black studies, what happened was they hired this brother out of New York named Arthur Jackson or something like that. But when he came, the BSU was advisory, the clique of the BSU. I stopped being with the BSU because the women said, you couldn't have but one girlfriend, and they were setting a rule like that. Well, I came there with 3 girlfriends. And then I got 2 or 3 more once I got there. So I said, I can't follow that principle. You understand? So I started the Black Athletic Association and kept my girlfriends. You understand? Because that's just where I was. And plus we got our EOP money. First thing I did was take it to my mama then. I ain't paid one thing for books. I stole all my books. And then the tuition in the dorm, at the end of this first semester, they had to kick me out because I didn't pay no money. They gave you a big check. It wasn't broken up. They didn't take nothing out. I ain't never had that kind of money that fast. went and got me a used car, you know, and so I took my mama money. My brothers and sisters bought my brothers and sisters leather coats. You know, they gave us credit cards. I messed all that up. I went down the street on Mona and took little kids and bought them shoes with the credit card. $250, man, I loved it. You understand? I was never gonna pay it back. You know, I didn't even understand what credit meant for your future and saving money. I just didn't. I didn't even think like that. I just thought about just helping our people, helping our family. But anyway, I got a good positive reputation on campus as a person with knowledge and wisdom and organizational skills. Because most of the cats in the BSU, they didn't participate in the Watts Rebellion. I was in an organization called Young Men for Total Democracy. Some of the best minds in Watson County. And I was the youngest, and they needed me as an enforcer because I had brothers in Willowbrook. And, you know, if they needed somebody to be intimidated, white folks or even some Negroes, we did it for them. So anyway, as we continued, when I got to Long Beach State and Compton, I was already seasoned with organizational skills because I watched these brothers. And that's how we got the BSU started, and that's why I got over there. So when I got to Long Beach State, my mind was Black power and Black development. The BSU was there, and they had a good advisor named Clyde Jackson, Clyde Taylor. And he was the engine behind them starting their BSU. But he didn't feel comfortable around me because, for some reason, anyway, we moved on it, and I got a reputation with the Black Athletic Association because we gave out awards, and we just, my position was get as much out of that university as you could, and get as many people in school as I could. So I went and got a bunch of my partners, and we got them in school, men transferred from other schools. So I had my own little group, but we did positive things. We took people to the camp. We had a camp that we had up in San Bernardino. We took a whole bunch of students, and we spent the weekend up at this camp. It had cabins and stuff. Bob Simmons was running it, and he gave them a lecture, and it was just a beautiful thing. So all the students loved. I was one of the cats on the basketball team, and we were doing good to build the gyms up. So everybody knew me. So when the BSU took over the Black Studies, because this guy from New York didn't come, so they didn't have a chair. So they made Tony Wilkins, who was the president of the BSU, the chair, the chair, but the college wouldn't recognize it. And they said, "No, you're a student," and the faculty rebelled on it. Said, "We don't take, you wouldn't do no other department that way." But they were so scared of Black people. They didn't do nothing until the summer. When everybody went home, they closed the Black Studies department, and said, "We ain't gonna have none." You understand? Took the keys and everything. And then Tarkanian hooked me up with the new president coming in. And this dean named George Demos. And they talked to me about working in athletics in some capacity, assistant director. I said, no, I want to bring Black Studies back. And I told them all kinds of lies. I don't know why. I said, we're going to, make it, let them help us make it a better department and all that. So they wanted to do two things. They wanted to head off any problems in September when school started back. So they appointed me head of Black Studies. So I immediately went and talked to the BSU. I said, we got it back. Y'all can run it. I mean, at that time, I'm Malcolm X in the daytime, but I'm Superfly at night. So I'm saying, hey, look, y'all run it. We're gonna bring everybody that y'all hired back. But they had another plan. And their plan was to have demonstrations in September, and they take over and point somebody they wanted to be chair. So many of them said no. And they started calling me all kinds of names and stuff like that. But I put it in the paper that I met with them. And then but they couldn't get nobody, the students, to go against me. They couldn't even get their own members to go against me. So it was just about 8 of them, but they were cliquish anyway. Those are the same one talking about only have one girlfriend. That ain't make sense to me, all them cutie pies up there, bow-legged girls, and we partying every night. That don't even make no sense. And I was single anyway. I said, if you said if you're married, you only can be with your wife. I'm looking for every girl I can find. Anyway, so I took over Black Studies. I had no teaching experience. I never, but I knew how to think and organize. So we organized it and we doubled the enrollment. I didn't do none of the things I told them white folks I was gonna do. I brought back faculty. We hired new faculty. And we just grew, and it's still in existence today. We built a strong foundation. And we brought in Dr. Robert Staples, brother Dr. Alexander should know him. Dr. Robert Staples was one of the top professors in San Francisco State, wrote Specials in the Black Family. A lot of his books are used all over at one time. And we brought in Yolanda Reed. We brought in, it was just great. We brought Dr. Ben Yakanam to speak. We brought Hakima Adibuti, and we brought, you think Ivor Van Sertiman, we brought him on later because he wasn't even known at that time. But Dr. Ben, so it was just good. Farrakhan, brought Farrakhan and all of them. So we grew a beautiful reputation as a Black conscience. And so anyway, that's what happened as far as me evolving. And then I became a student of Black Studies. And I started reading Malcolm, sitting with Dr. Ben, and then just becoming Black conscious. I thought Black consciousness was not liking white people, but it was loving your people. That's what Black consciousness is. And looking at the positiveness of what we do rather than what white folks portrayed us on TV or on in the newspaper to make us hate ourselves. And so we took the principles of the Nation of Islam, that we were Black gods and goddesses, and we built a strong student base. And it was just a beautiful thing to see us evolve. Now we had to fight white folks all the time about trying to minimize the program. We made them change so many of their rules. But my point is that we as an African people, and we are from Africa, the anthropological origin of us is the continent of Africa. Our geographical origin is the continent of Africa. That's where Black people come from. I don't care where they are. Like Malcolm said, you can put if a kid have kittens, if a cat has kittens in an oven don't mean that the kittens are biscuits. Just because you're born in Louisiana, Mississippi, don't make you a Mississippian. Your origin is the continent of Africa. And so, we had Francis Cresswell sing, and we built a consciousness among young people and a sense of pride and respect. And that's what our department was based upon. I taught 4 classes straight out of college. And, this guy named Robert Williams that wrote the book Black Psychology, and he had different authors in it, Cedric X and Parham at that time, all those great psychologists. And they had a Black Psychology Association that started in 1968, if I remember correctly. And then you had just black engineers, everybody was just black. We were wearing natural African clothes, and everything was just a beautiful thing. We started calling brothers and sisters, sisters and brothers, all the way through up to 70-something. Then COINTELPRO just messed all that up with drugs and the sort of a gentrification, not of building high-price apartments and condos in our neighborhood. They use immigration to break up the Black community. And that's how you got so many Latinos here in such a bad, it was so fast, Compton changed so fast. In a 10-year period, we went from Black to brown. And then so I ran for the school board, and I won on my first time running because I was known throughout Compton, basketball and all that. I wanted to find out how you teaching kids. See, when we went to school, we dressed, and we wore suits, and we didn't necessarily dress Black, but we dressed, had close haircuts and a nice haircut, nice naturals, and we was just, we took pride. We represented our families, our community, our vision for the future. And that's what we all got to have. What we're going to do, and are we building for the future? And so I wanted to know how we start sagging, how we start wearing earrings. And I said, let me go and find out. And I found out. You had a different consciousness of school. It was like many of the teachers at that time had given up. Joe Hendricks alone, he can tell you, the teachers that weren't teaching, they were just, they beat the kids out of the school when the bell rang at the last day. Well, we had teachers, we had so many organizations on campus when we was coming up. You had the science club, Spanish club, this club, that club, new club. It was just a beautiful thing because I wanted to find out how it changed to the point that they had no plan. They got rid of all the shops, the wood shops, the metal shops and stuff, and all the vocational things. And they started talking about tests. I said, oh, wow. They had gyms with no hot water. Kids didn't shower. We was mandatory to shower when I was coming to school. That's why we had our first shower. We used to take baths. At home, we didn't even have no shower in the house. We had a bathtub. You set your big button up bathtub and you wash yourself. But then when we got to the gym, we learned how to shower. The coaches.
Excuse me, yeah. Professor Rahh. He had some other questions he wanted to ask. I know you was going on some some history there. But okay, brother CB, what's another question you have for him?
I was into it, man. Like, you know, like I say, man, you know, like I said, this is exciting. Anyway, okay, so you kind of answered. So a lot of the questions that I had, you kind of went through so much of that in that series right there. So I'm gonna skip all the way down and just ask some comparison questions with you. How did the 70s change the minds of Black people? Historically, I feel like the 70s was very exciting from every aspect, but it's the first that we get an education or we get some type of idea where we kind of stood our ground in more of a physical or maybe a misunderstood manner.
Yeah, that's easy. That's easy to tell you. It killed the movement. The 60s, half the people had to leave the country. Huey had to leave. Cleaver had to leave, you know, and they broke up the organizations. They infiltrated them. Had undercover people in all the organizations. BSUs, we got the Freedom of Information Act. We had cops in the BSU, Black people, you know, that they was working with them. And so when we got to the 70s, there was no leadership. Dr. Karanga was in prison. There was no leadership in our local area, in nation. And then they had us fighting each other. You know, Fred Hampton got shot. Dr. Alexander could tell you about that. Fred Hampton was not like the West Coast Black Panther. He was a serious organizer and a serious person that mobilized people. They just gravitated to him. They killed that man in his bed, you know. And they attacked the Nation of Islam. You know, they had split. I mean, just when Elijah Muhammad died, the nation went under the sun and they just said, ain't no such thing as my daddy, the last messenger, and got rid of Fruit of Islam, set Farrakhan down, you know, and so the movement, the Black movement, and then our consciousness went from I'm Black and I'm proud, message to a Black man, the Aqua Boogie, and Do the Dog, and the P-Funk, and so the music was very challenging from that standpoint. So my point, the music changed from conscious music, love music, blues and jazz, and the radio station changed. So it was hard, man. They put on all these comedies, white men making these comedies about Black people, JJ running around talking about dynamite. I mean, it was just crazy. Good Times, and what's the other one with the guy, you know, we moving on up and all that stuff, man. No struggle, no reality about struggle. They changed it to partying. And then they saturated the community with drugs. The drugs was everywhere. They made PCP and cocaine so affordable for those that were young and didn't have the discipline to stay off of them. And we sold them to each other and at supplemental income. I mean, it was just, and so in the 70s, there was some rebellion. I don't think everybody, when they killed Eula Love, we stood up. When they killed Larry Morris, we stood up. Going back to the 60s, when we had to watch rebellion, people don't talk about when they killed Leonard Deadweiler. We tore up cities then too. And when they killed Martin Luther King, there was rebellions all over the state. And they don't want our kids to know that we struggled and that we fought and we stood up for justice. And so, you know, it was just rough. And see, they didn't have a policy of not teaching us about that. We learned about those things, about our movement, by team posts. They had what they call anti-poverty programs in the 60s. And all of them went away. The poverty programs, I mean, it was just different, man. And it was a thing in which the institutions that we built stood. The BSU stood. The Black colleges stood because they had the resources and the mindset. But the everyday people had no leadership. So they turned to churches. And the churches turned from gospel of service and spiritual development and consciousness and politicalness. You know, I mean, you had Adam Clayton Powell, they put in, ran him out. You had Charles Diggs out of Detroit, they indicted him. And so the Black movement changed to the point that they began to Negronize the Black people. And so, but we did stand up and we did have some rebellions in the 70s against the police. Because police killing us under the camouflage of law enforcement had been around since we've been on the planet. The police started, and that was their goal when you first got paid police. They used to have volunteers, night watchmen, day watchmen, but then they started the first police department, really started in the Deep South. And their whole thing was to suppress Black people and keep the status quo of white dominance. They enforced the segregation and racist laws. They were part of the lynchings and the murdering. And they are that today. You understand? And they are very, very powerful political people. This guy that choked that brother out on the train, he raised millions of dollars for his defense. And some Zimmerman who killed Trayvon, he got millions of dollars for his defense. But anyway, we did stand up. Some of us did stand up and fought. We had, then they gave us jobs. In the movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucked, when he asked the brother over the Black freedom movement, where are the Black people? We was gonna have a demonstration, and we went down there, and they were hiring that day, and the people stopped struggling. It's just like the people who stood up for George Floyd that summer. Where are they now? They ain't stopped killing. You see, most of the Black organization, you had a little flare up in 1968 with the Chicago 7, one of the brothers in the Panthers worked with him. My name slipped me, but I had a debate with him in Watts once. When he was one of the top leaders of the Panthers. But anyway.
Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale. He's making cookbooks now. And they really devastated Black organization, man. And when I say they raided the headquarters, and I mean, the young people fought, the old cats tried to survive. And then, like I said, they had to leave. And then they came back And each one of them that they ran because they had charges on them and fake charges on them. And they came back and beat every one of the charges. Huey Newton, when he came back, he won all his cases that they had put on him, you know, and then, you know, we had Angela Davis run for president in 68, Dick Gregory, Eldridge Cleaver ran for president. They all ran on the Communist Party. People think Angela Davis was black conscious. She wasn't. She was with the socialists and communists. She had an opportunity to organize black women and become a role model for black women. But she went with the white people. She's living with a white woman now, I think, you know. But those are things, the contradictions, you know. Even Imam Baraka, you know, he was conscious, and then all of a sudden he became, I don't know what happened to him. And, you know, he got with white women and stuff. And then
who is that, Professor Rahh?
Imam Baraka. Imam Baraka. He was a great boy. He was great in the movement. When we in 1972, we had the Gary, Indiana Black Political Convention. And he was over the writing the agenda. And he helped start an organization called the East. And Imam Baraka was a legend in New York. But, you know, he changed. His daughter is one of the people that used to do the broadcasting on KJLH. I can't even think of her name. I know her real well. And she crossed the color line. But anyway, getting back to the 80s, a resurgence to a certain degree of the movement, because you had Farrakhan rebuilding the Black nation. Dr. Karenga had rebuilt the US organization. And so you had Kwame Ture had built the All-African Revolutionary Party. You had Malcolm X centers all over the place. You had a resurgence coming. And it was beautiful to see the resurgence. We built a Black Consciousness Conference at Long Beach State, still going on, in 1979. And we had demonstrations. And then Dr. Khalid had the Topographical Center in California. And at that time, he was Harold X, but he became Khalid Muhammad. And he was one of the most strongest Nation of Islam brothers out, but they suspended him like they did Malcolm, and they treated him like they did Malcolm. May all the good he brought in the world last forever. He passed, and me and him was real close. And I mean, we just had young leaders popping up, dealing with the struggle and dealing with the consciousness. The 80s was very good from that standpoint. And then parts of the 90s were for Black people. And then the emphasis on graduating and getting degrees. The brother that was chair of Temple University, Dr. Alexander, he's still chair. I got all his books. He was at UCLA at first.
Right, about Afrocentricity. Molefi Asante.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Molefi Asante.
Yeah, I know him. I know him well. I mean, real well. Molefi got the first PhD at Temple University in Black Studies, and he was a great writer, wrote all kinds of books, and still in the movement. And you had Dr. Ben going on all college campuses, along with John Henry Clark, built the African Heritage Association in the 70s, and it spilled over into the 80s. Ivan Van Sertiman became well known. Dr. Francis Graf-Seen was speaking on every campus. It was a Black resurgence of consciousness. You know, you had all African, the new African people with, what does the brother we had on Rashaki, Akinyela, Umoja Akinyela. He was the chair, straight out of Compton, of the New African People Party of organization. The Pan-African Secretariat with Yemi Ture and Brother Oba Tashaka. They gave the State of the Race conferences. Oh man, we was rolling, man, right there at the end of the 70s going into the 80s. And then white folks did it again. They came in with these new drugs. They came in with these assassinations and imprisonment of people and broke up the movement, you know. And the thing is that it was just a beautiful thing to be a part of it and to share in the glory and the beauty. And when you walk down the street, if you saw a Black brother homeless, you didn't see him as a bum or something. You saw him as a brother, or probably a father, or cousin, or to somebody. If you saw a sister selling her body, she was a sister. She was a daughter, somebody's daughter. So you didn't see it like to take advantage of them or to demonize them or make them feel bad about yourself. We realized that most of our problem was created by oppression. And oppression make you do a lot of stuff, strange stuff. All you have to do is read all the books on psychology by Black psychology. They talks about it.
Professor Rahh.
Yeah.
I want to, and brother CB, I want to be able to involve the panel at this moment. We've been going for about an hour. Yeah, so I want to let the panel just get a little something in. So I'm gonna start with Cheyenne, the wife of Brother CD. Do you have any questions or comment for Professor Rahh?
I mean, so far this has been very inspiring. I want to join a class. I want to attend one of his classes. But very interesting. Me personally, going back to when I was in high school, I was very active in the Black Student Union as well. And I'm actually contemplating going back. I have a master's in HR, but I'm actually contemplating going back and getting a second master's in Black Studies. So this has been very, very enlightening. I can listen to you all day. So it has literally just been intriguing. I have a million questions. Just so interested. I'm a lifelong learner. Chris will tell you. I am very, very passionate about Black history, Black studies. I view us as parents as a vessel to our children, to our grandchildren. My grandparents, when my grandmother was from Atlanta, she moved to California when she was first married. So she was about 20, 21. Education is all I know, right? Instilled education. She's a family of educators as well. But for me, I have a longing for really going deeper. You know, we had, when I was in high school, we had, like I said, the Black Student Union, but we weren't taught Black history, right? And so we had this college that Chris and I went to. We went to Cal State Hayward in the Bay. But say that again.
Yeah, but there was a brother named Malachi Andrews. He was at Hayward, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I can't remember. Go ahead.
So yeah, so it's really, you had to go out and seek, right? It wasn't like built into the curriculum and things like that in high school. And so, my path took me more on like, sociology. I have a minor in ethnic studies. But I really, want to go back and continue, my continued education within Black Studies. So that's a personal goal for myself. And so that's why, I told Chris, I want to join. I'm so happy to join this call. I mean, you are just a beacon of knowledge. And I noticed I have a couple of your books that you have in the background. So yeah, this, like I said, it's just very insightful. And I look forward to continue participating on this panel.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you that Professor Rahh is on probably, it's 250 videos. He's on probably 252 of them.
Oh,
so you got plenty of Black studies right here.
Perfect.
At the Community Education Network on YouTube and on the website. So I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to Brother DX. Brother DX.
Yes. Peace and love, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Bless up, Professor Rahh. We appreciate you this evening, man. This is definitely a lesson in history, and also just the ethnicity of our people, man. It's so much that's been going on with us, and you know what I mean? Like, you got a front row seat. So that's appreciated, man. Just glad to be a part of it. I really didn't have a question or anything, you know what I'm saying? I'm just listening and just, you know what I'm saying, just being grateful to be a part. I'm glad I chimed in today, because this is a definite hit. But I kind of see, I'm gonna make a quick comment and pass it on. Like, I noticed, like, for me growing up the same way, like, they didn't really teach Black history, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I'm the generation where it stopped. I'm an ex-gen, and you know what I'm saying, we had that whole latchkey kid type thing been going on for quite a while when they took the parents out the home. And I think that dynamic in itself changed, because, like, my parents had another parent that was at the house, and the dad was out working. Grandpa was out doing what he got to do, and grandma was there. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, we used to have to walk home from school and go to grandma's house sometimes. Or, you know what I'm saying, when we got a little bit better, keeping the key and not losing it, tying the string around our neck. There, you know what I'm saying, we was allowed to go to the house and wait for my little brother and cousins come home, and they come into the house, and you know what I mean, taking on those responsibilities like that. I think the dynamic of our people, because they took vocation out of school. You know what I'm saying? I was just the last one to take wood shop, probably. You know, my brother didn't get that. Some of my other siblings, and cousins and stuff, they didn't get the wood shop, or like being able to take a typing class. They don't even teach typing in school. They don't do the cursive writing. All that's gone. You know what I mean? Just the whole experience that you got in school is all changed. But I'm looking at it like, when you really think about it, like, I know the educational system itself was started by the Rockefellers. You know what I mean? So it was a whole plot to create workers and not necessarily educate the people, but to create workers. Somebody had to come and work in these factories. When you graduate high school, you go right on into the system, and still wake up at 6 in the morning and come home at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. You know what I mean? And that'd be like your whole life until you retire. You doing the same thing your whole life from the time you go to school until you retire. It's the same demographic, the same, like, day to day, you know what I'm saying, kind of feeding the system for what they want. And it's easy to be indoctrinated into the system when you got a job and you working, and you got to pay these bills that they created, you know, electric bill, gas bill, insurance, car insurance, you know what I mean? Everything, you know what I'm saying? So, and then paying for your education, you know what I'm saying, to teach you how to work for somebody else, you know? And up to now, until we, like, I kind of feel like, regardless of what the colonists do, like that energy that they had in the 60s and 70s of real organization. You know what I mean? As much as we know, and like the conscious level, it's a lot of conscious people like that. What's that little thing that drives people to organize? You know what I'm saying? Like the organization on a real conscious, real, nationalist level, Black nationalist level. What do you think, Professor Rod, that we missing so much that even now, like every decade, you know what I'm saying, we get those leaders that pop out and do some things, you know what I mean, and able to organize and put stuff together. And what we missing that we don't have that anymore? You think it's fear, or is it just the way the system is designed now? Like the program they running, ain't nobody just,
Well,
and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, there's a lot to it. I mean, if you conscious rap went to vulgar and gang and violent rap, you had people, like I said, what's going on in Africa right now? You don't hear it on the news. You understand? Now they got an African station and an African radio, but most people don't even know they have that. You have to see yourself. When I say that the world is how you see it, there are many kids don't know about Djaga Geronimo Pratt and his struggle. They don't know about Richard King and his work on melanin. It's not, most of our people look for information. Most of the parents, you got young parents, there was a lot of things that happened in the virus. And I'll let somebody else ask a question after I say this. When we were in the 60s, we just had one focus, Black liberation. It was in two phases, civil rights and Black power. And both of them complemented each other. We had leaders in the civil rights movement, leaders in Black power. When we got to the 70s, the women movement started. Then you have other movements. Latinos started their movement. The gay movement began. Even today, you got so many movements. You had people fighting against AIDS. You had people fighting against Black people are split into all these different movements. You have Black Lives Matter. You have Black political organizations. Like this, so we are not centralized, and there's no overarching organization to create a Black United Front. We're like the continent of Africa, the same thing. They got all those countries, but they're not nationalized. In this country, you got one language from the north to the south, the east to the west. You got $1 bill from the north to the south to the east to the west. And you got one language, north to the south to the east to the west. Yeah, okay, I see y'all. And then you have a one educational system, national, or one president. That's the only person everybody vote for. Each state operates independently, but at the same time, they're part of the United States. And we don't have a united Africa, even though our leaders have called for it. They have a national military, Air Force, Navy, National Guard, everything. Under the president, who's the commander-in-chief and can deputize each state National Guard to be a federal place. You understand? Whereas the reason why Africa is the way it is, and the reason why white folks should take over other countries, they're defenseless. They just want to live. White folks want to rule and take your resources. And that's why you don't hear about the Palestinians. So that's what happened, brother. They give you diversion. They take you off of Black consciousness. Most of the youth don't even know why they're in the shape that they're in, some of them. It wasn't an accident. When you talked about school, I went and traveled around California. I went to Irvine, UC, Riverside. Those high schools kept their vocational program, but they changed it to making movies. They had aquatics, teaching people to swim. They had all kind of computer technology way before. I'm talking about with disk drives and went from key punch to computers. They were doing that in their high school. They left us, took ours, because they think that we supposed to just, you know, be programmed, as Dr. Alexander would tell you. They program you not to struggle, not to be conscious. You understand? With TV, and as Dr. Naeem Akbar would say, that they kidnapped our kids electronically in front of television. Now they're cyberspace. Kids Facebooking, talking about their booties and all kind of stuff, other than using it as a tool for liberation. They turn everything into struggle to stay in power. We have to turn everything into struggle to get liberation. All right, next person.
Okay. Dr. Charles, you had put a book up. Can you tell us about that book, and then you could make your comment or a question, whatever.
Well, I put the book up because of a statement that Brother DX made. And
can you show us that book, please?
So the book is The White Architects of Black Education, Ideology and Power in America, 1865 to 1954, by William H. Watkins.
Raise it up a little bit so we can see the bottom of it.
White Architects of Black Education.
Okay, I wanted to see who's the author. Say something.
William
Watkins. William Watkins.
Okay, Dr. Alexander, thank you for that. Do you have a question, comment?
I do. And thanks again, Baba Amara. I'm just again appreciative for the share, but you know, all of these people that you have relationships with, and so I was wondering about some more relationships. You know, you have relationships, or do you have relationships with Dr. Harry Edwards?
Yeah, we brought him out. We brought him out to speak in Linwood, and I traveled with him and talked to him. You know, he was the head of the Black Athletic Revolt. He wrote the book. It was a book, The Revolt of the Black Athlete, in Sociology of Sports. I used it when I taught exploitation of the Black athlete. You have Harry, bald head, tall, and talk all the time. He can tell you some stories, but he changed on us though. You know, but I ain't gonna get into that.
Yeah, apparently so, yes. And how about Runoko Rashidi? You mentioned Dr.
Runoko went to Compton College. Runoko is, we spoke on a number of programs together, but he got most of his studies with Dr. Ben, Ashwa Kwesi. He started taking people to Africa. Made the good he brought in the world last forever. He just made his transition.
Yep.
But Runoko started the state of Black people, him and LeGrand Clay at Compton College. So go ahead.
And then how about Dr. Nathan Hare and Dr. Julia Hare?
We had them so many times. What Julia said? Black women need a BMW, a black man working. You know? All her saying, oh, we on first name basis. Nathan is going through little changes. He's elder. He lost Julia. But we, you know, we send him money and send him support. He's up north. And we just pray that he continue. They wrote, I wish everybody could read their books on the Black family and all the things that they've done. He was the first chair of the first program in Black Studies at
Black
San
Studies.
State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know Nathan very well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. Those were my questions.
Okay, thanks a lot. We got the good brother doctors here, Professor Rahh.
Oh, that's my brother, man.
Brother doctor, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I got in kind of late, so I kind of missed the topic. I'm hearing Professor Rahh spitting that knowledge, but that's about it. I kind of missed it, so I don't know where we are looking at. But I heard I got a little drift of it, but I thought he was just talking about what's going on now. But more and more he started talking, he was talking about what's going back on in the 60s. So to me, nothing's changed.
Good brother doctor.
We changed.
All right. Okay, Brother Kwabena.
Oh, right on, man. Just like the good doctor just now, I got in late, but I listened to Monday's program, the recording of it, which is so cool because I'll be able to catch the recording of this one and catch that first hour. But you were Professor Rahh, salute to you, man. This is like a tribute to you, brother, in this history, man. So, man, definitely clench fist salute, and for all the work you've been doing all these years, man, and just love to be a part of this. And again, I'm gonna catch the first part on the rerun. And if you answered these questions already, don't worry about it. Again, I am gonna watch the repeat. But when I heard you on Monday, you guys gave tribute to Tina Turner near the end, and I was thinking about the music. You were talking about, being around and going to see her at different places in the 60s. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if you can compare what decade would you say was like the best decade for our music? And then the other question was 65 rebellion, revolt, 92 revolt. And if you can compare those two. And I'll just
what revolt?
The 65 watts compared to the 90 to the
92.
Yeah,
the 92 rebellion. Okay, I'll start with that, and then I'll go back to the music quickly. There's a big difference. In 1965, the majority of the people out there were all Black as far as rebellion. Matter of fact, Black men, with mostly Black men, I was out there with them, and our consciousness was one in which we were focusing on white people and the police. We ran the police off. They left their cars. I mean, it was just total chaos with regards to their shock. They were just shocked that we did that. Matter of fact, we used to, after the rebellion, they used to blame it on the summer that it was real hot. And people said we'd have it's gonna be a long, hot summer if you don't give us some money, and so that was it. But it started again. It exploded, the Black organizations after the rebellion. The NAACP reached this height, the Nation of Islam reached this height. It inspired a Black consciousness. They built a hospital, Martin Luther King, shopping centers, all of that came because of the result of struggle. They didn't do it, and from that standpoint. We got your first Black mayor in Compton. You had your first Black mayor, and that was the result of the struggle in 68 in LA when Tom Brady, even though he came in late, but it set the basis for Black political exploration for them to go in a consciousness. We had anti-poverty programs, teen post youth. A lot of positive things came out of the rebellion in 1965. Most of the people killed, 33 brothers killed. One white cop who got killed in Long Beach. They started the Black Summer Festival. Watch Summer Festival was a ball, man. When we first started, it was free. The sons of Watts, the daughters of Watts, all of that came about. People used to say, I'm from Watts. Now they say I'm from Compton, you know, because all the people in Watts moved to Compton, you know. But that was it. It was mainly a Black movement thing. And you didn't see no other groups out there, but mostly Black people. You look at all the footage, it's all Black people. In 92, it was a multicultural, multiracial thing. Even though the spark was by Black people. Most people think it started on Florence, but it really started right after the court decision, you know, and we was at AME Church with them trying to get organized. And then when we came out, the city was on fire already and all over. It wasn't just, it wasn't just in a contained area. It was all over and it spread it all over the country. Whereas ours was limited to from Rosecrans to Washington, from Alameda to Crenshaw. They called that Watts, or where the rebellion was. But the LA 92, you had families participating, Latinos, Asians, Koreans was robbing Koreans. You know, and then you had Latasha killing at that time. And so that was a part of it. You know, we was angry with the Asians about shooting that girl in the back of the head over some orange juice that she didn't even buy. She was leaving the store. And it wasn't the killing. See, murder is murder. We made it clear that in 92, that murder is murder. Racism is letting the murderers get off with killing us. That's what racism is. And so we, you know, they had, oh man, that was different from that standpoint. But at the same time, the people after the rebellion in the 92, it was so many innocent people that they just was out there doing things. They made them apologize. Then they had them giving stuff back, you know, that they had took out the store. I said, what? You know, so that was mainly it. It was more families. You saw families out there, people driving up with their kids, putting them in the stores. The National Guard was at the Compton Hotel, which was called the Lasman at that time. I was on the school board at that time, LA 92. So I drove around, and the city's clerk, he went out there to try to stop people. They took his gun and beat his butt, like they did Dick Gregory in 1965. He came to stop us in the Watts Rebellion, and he got shot in the leg, but it really was the butt. And I mean, it was just, that's the difference.
Wow.
Clive was a Black thing. LA 92, you had white people burning their own buildings because they get the insurance. It was a lot of stuff, you know, going on, but that was it. But when it comes to the music, our music is always relevant because some of it is classic, even though the European promoted, and I wish that people would listen to your lecture, Kavanagh, that you did on the rap music that encourage our people to be violent toward each other and shooting and disrespecting women and things. You broke it down so beautiful, those lyrics, man. And I just wish that people would find it. Rashiki has that. And if you can just tune in on our network and get that presentation, it would take you out. I mean, the way thank you for your work in Chicago and you and Dr. Alexander lifting the consciousness of the people. So the struggle continues, but our music You know, I mean, people still use our music. The system promotes that vulgar music. They try to choose, well, let me tell you, Tupac just got a star in Hollywood. They want to focus on Tupac's violent record of music, but he had messages in his music. If you listen to Tupac, he talks about his mama and being poor. He talks about this because, you know, he's relative to Asada Shakur. That's his aunt. And so he had some consciousness. And it's unfortunate that he got hooked up with Suge Knight then. You understand? And left us at 25, you know? And the same thing with Biggie. Biggie had some consciousness. But at the same time, there were a lot of rappers, like, what's this brother from Centennial?
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. You got some people out there rapping some good messages. The system promotes that negative thing to create, because they know that music can have a profound effect on people. You know, you're getting high, drinking, and, you know, it'll drive you crazy. You know, sex, like you were telling Luther and the Two Live Crew, I guess that was them.
Yeah.
I mean, they did some terrible things about sex and stuff, but Too Short, all that. You know, I mean, I never listened to them, but I watched them on TV excerpts, and the white man would try to tell you, we're gonna give them a Grammy. You're like, what?
Man.
Give them a Grammy. They're number one with you because y'all buy most of the rap music like that. You understand? It's not only influencing us, it's influencing them too. Those are the two things. But our music, you're not going to get rid of Luther Vandross. People still play it. You're not going to get rid, and it's not just the old people, young people. When they mellowing out, they listen to our music. When they go to prison, all they want to hear is oldies. You understand? That's all they want to hear is oldies. I was and I worked in juvenile hall. That's all they want to hear.
I know our brother got somebody else, but and again, I wanted to back up Brother Charles when he mentioned Renoko. We would bring Renoko here like every year for years, and we got a beautiful picture. I don't know, Brother Charles, if you still got that picture too that we took with him speaking at Pastor John Jackson's church up here in Gary. But yeah, he would. We missed that brother coming to Gary every year to bless us, man. And I remember
classic books, Blacks in India, Blacks in Asia, Blacks everywhere. You know, that brother traveled and did a lot, man. And I'm sorry that he lost. I used to take him home and pick him up, you know, because he didn't have the car at one time. And so we was real cool, me and Renoko. Yeah, good brother. I'm glad y'all got a chance to bring him out on the East Coast. That's excellent.
All right. Appreciate it, Quabba. Now I'll go to Brother Machinda and then Brother Henry.
Yeah, just real brief. I just want to show my appreciation to Professor Rahh. You know, he's always been somebody to look up to. You know, once I learned about Professor Rahh, you know, back in the day, you know, I've been pretty conscious, you know, the bulk of my life, you know, and you've been one of the ones that are inspirational, all the different authors and speakers that you mentioned. I'm very familiar with a lot of them, going to many meetings and conferences and demonstrations and things like that over the years. But it was only because of brothers like you who it's like a relay, you know, you pass the baton on, you know, not that you fell out the race, but, you know, give the younger generation something to stand on and something to pass on to the next generation. So I'm still in the trenches, you know, I'm getting a little older, but hey, you know, my work is not done. And I'm sure sounds like you got a second win where you ready to start the new revolution.
Yeah.
So
we'll stop the first one.
Hey, I see. Well, I know that you haven't stopped, but I'm just saying you done got fired up. So, you know, we'll talk about that on another time. But you know, I really appreciate you. I can relate to, like I say, mostly everything you was talking about. You know, I'm from the same neck of the woods. My family, you know, moved from Watts to Compton, and I know about all of that. And again, look forward to many shows with you, and you have a good evening, brother.
Yeah, that's what Dr. Richard King was from. He went to Markham when I was there. He was in the 12th grade. I was in the 7th. He was in the 9th grade when I was in the 7th grade. Dr. Richard King, and he went on and became he had two. He was a MD and a psychologist and a doctor, I think. I'm not mistaken. Both. And then, see, when you sit down with Hakeem Mahadi Booty and the Institute of Positive Education and the Black Books Bulletin back in the 70s, man, that was just uplifting. And then you sit down with Dr. Penn and get on First Naval. We used to go on 66 and Broadway to the soul food restaurant. Every year he came out here, we went and ate together and sat up under them when they not lecturing. And, you know, I used to speak, and me and Mr. Farrakhan's on first name basis, you know. He flew me out to help start the second Million Man March. We met at the Dorothy Heights Center, me, Dr. Karenga, him, and Danny Bakewell, and all the top players. Reverend Stallworth, who started Ebony Catholic Church, broke away from that. I mean, I sat around them. So, I mean, you know, man, it's just a beautiful thing. And even Cornel West was trying to run for president. You know, me and him, and he gave me an award. And it's just, I mean, I've sat around some great minds, you know, like I said. Dr. Khalid Muhammad, when you sit around them great minds, man, they keep you fired up. You understand? Keep you fired up. Their spirit becomes part of your spirit. I mean, most people think we losing, but they give you a victorious attitude, as Dr. Malefi Asante. You got to have a victorious. You got to look for the positiveness in Black people. They make you think it ain't no change, ain't no struggle going on. But they wouldn't have never arrested them police for killing George Floyd. They wouldn't have never arrested this woman who just shot this sister through the door. Oh, they wouldn't have never done that if it wasn't for the struggle. In Ferguson, way before Black Matters was a thing that started Black Matters. Michael Brown, they never would have started. I mean, and we have a lot of results. But then when you get up there, man, they can do a lot. These people, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, they're the masters of trickeration. You know, they have you hating yourself. We go to Joe.
All right, Brother Joe.
Hey, evening, everyone. Appreciate my brother, my elder. Let me just say that I came from a different one. I grew up around white folks before I moved to Compton, so I was in heaven when I moved to Compton, getting away from all the crackers and the racism that existed. And I grew up in a project also, it was a military project. But, and you know, working in the school system for years, I had 4 different groups of students that I took from 9th grade through the 12th. And I did my greatest work at Centennial, Rah's alma mater, which I love Centennial because Centennial was built for Black folks. At Compton High, we was running behind white folks after they left it. But anyway, that's another story. I consider myself a person to wake up the walking dead, the people that are not in the knowledge. I just got off a fishing trip this weekend, and it was a young brother on there, 27 from Fresno, that shook my hand and told me he appreciated all the information I was sharing. a lot of the Christians were rebelling against what I was talking, but that's okay. But anyway, just like to make a comment on a few things. First of all, I'm a student of Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben. During my years at Centennial, I took numerous students, you know, to hear them speak whenever they were in town. And I had Renoko Rashidi a bunch of times. You'd pick him up from the airport and drop him at his sister's house over there in LA. And I just like to commend Professor Rahh because every time I asked him to speak, he never asked for no money. And the others were a little different. They always had to get paid. And I hate about Renoko because I was trying to get him on the show, I guess about 2 weeks before he passed. And because we couldn't pay him, he didn't want to come. But anyway, the brother did a great work. And that book that Professor Rahh was talking about is called Black Star Over Asia, Black Presence in the East. It's a great work. He wrote the first one with Ivan Van Sertima, but they couldn't agree on the price. I think Ivan Van Sertima had died and his wife wanted more money, so Renoko rewrote the book. I got both copies, the one he did with the other brother and the one he did by himself. Also like to make a comment on a few things that I heard, like the movement, people that are interested in history. The sister that was on, you need to study the era of Marcus Garvey. Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey would be a great book for you. And about the disorganization in Africa, just like to comment on a brother that was a great leader and the American press just used a lot of propaganda against him. That was Idi Amin of Uganda, the brother that nationalized his country, put all the foreigners out, and the American press said that he was massacring a whole lot of Christians, which wasn't true, just to get him out of there because they couldn't stand for the other African nations to do the same. And if you go over to Africa right now, just like here in our neighborhoods, we're not running those stores where we live. It's outside people. The same thing in Africa. Europeans, Chinese, Koreans running all the malls and stores over there also. So there's some type of international plan to keep us down. And just like Brother Rob mentioned, the reason we can't overcome it because we can't defend ourselves, okay? And that's something we need to work on with maybe a Mau type mentality. Going over a few of the points about the 92 rebellion versus 65 rebellion, there's a video called The Fire This Time. And then during the 92 rebellion, forces brought vans like into the projects in Watts. They drove like 6, 7 vans in there full of weapons and just drove them in the projects and left them and walked out. They did the same thing along the railroad tracks along the PJs. Had railroad cars full of weapons that they just left the doors open for, brothers to get, to do the things that's happening today. That was one of the other differences. Another point about the police and what they were doing in LA. In the 40s, 1940s, Central Avenue was the haven for all of the musical artists, Sam Cooke and all of them. And a lot of white girls used to flock down there to see them. So Parker, who the station in LA is named after, the Parker Center, he went down south and recruited a whole lot of them redneck white boys, put them on a police force to break that kind of situation up. And another thing that's holding us back, these athletes and others that become famous, all of them got their blind on their arm. That's why they can't get into the fight, because they're sleeping with them. Another point I want to bring up. And one thing a reason why we can't get it together, a lot of us fear the sting of the lash, and just like Malcolm said, You still got them field Negroes and house Negroes. And that's part of the problem that we have. So that's all I want to mention about this thing. And Professor Rahh, Elder, always admonish, what you bring to the table. I'm learning from you all the time. And I'm not hiding in the bushes no more like you used to tell me.
All right.
I want to give praise to Kaleem Akil, who helped me up. He used to help me wake up back when I was first getting into the conscious, because I was a teacher for 6 years before I found out any of this information myself as far as the history and whatnot. So I've been studying intensely for 40 years on it, and I'm still doing it right now, especially getting into the African spirituality aspect of it, which is what we need to be into more so than where we go on Sunday and Saturday all the time. So anyway, the answer's in the cosmos. And and I tell you this, it ain't the SON that'll never leave you or forsake you. It's the SUN that'll never leave you or forsake you. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, Brother Hendrick. Thanks for that. Let me just say this. Let me show you guys this book. And this book right here. I'm still reading it. It's taking me a while to get through it, but let me show you.
Conspiracy of Silence.
Yes, sir. All right. Everybody check this out. I'm trying to get it big. I guess it won't let me do it big. Hendrick, turn your speaker off. Let me see if I can get it on here. All right. Well, so I don't know why it won't let me show it, but
bring it up a little bit.
Let me just go back to the panel gallery view. Let me see. There it is. Conspiracy of Silence. Man, what's up with my?
We're gonna have him on the show again.
Oh, we're gonna have him? Okay.
He's
so
coming back.
Let me just show everybody this. And you can listen to the show that we did with him. And Brother CB, we coming right back to you. So don't go nowhere.
I ain't going nowhere. I'm learning.
All right. So right here, this brother, this book, if you don't have thick skin and you caught up in what Hendrick talked about, man, here it is right here. There it is. It's right there. This book, if you don't have thick skin, and if you scared, you can't listen to this podcast.
We didn't see it.
We can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No, we don't see nothing.
Oh, let me. Oh, okay. Here we go. Let me share it. I thought I was sharing it. Let me share it. Oh my God, I'm reading this book, and he's really debunking the Christianity, you guys. I mean, it's deep. And if you scared, if you spooked, you can't read that book. You can't listen to these videos because the information that he's bringing. Oh my God, I'm lost for words to even say it. And I'm taking pictures of the pages so I can be able to go back and read those pages again. And it's deep. Let me just say that. But Brother CB, we want to go back to you, and you're gonna close us out with a question or comments, and we're gonna close the show after you.
Okay, so just listening to you guys, man, this has been absolutely great for me, man. Just all this knowledge, all this history. I don't know if we're all from Compton, but a lot of Compton representing on here. So I just want to thank you guys for letting me be a part of this, being my family. I have a few questions just based on the conversations that all of you had, but I'm just going to narrow it down to one one big issue, Mr. Rahh, if you can talk to me about Black people's health, just what's your opinion in general on maybe where we were, where we are, where we're going, or just your outlook on it in general?
When you say Black people, what?
Health.
Health?
Is it physical health or the state of Black people?
Oh, they all, mental and physical go hand in hand.
Okay.
You know, that was part of the movement. We had independent Black schools. We had people talking nutrition. Dick Gregory, you know, with the Gamma Gene or whatever that was he had, but he talked about the importance of drinking water and eating properly. And you had New Earth with Dr. What's his name, Rashiki? Dr. Goss. You had Dr. Goss. You had different restaurants. Haki them was talking nutrition. Him and Juanza Kanjufu. They were all into about the importance of a complete bowel movement and how to fight constipation in some of their writings, and it was all over. You know, people was trying. It's very hard when you don't cook your own food. Whenever you go and eat somebody else's food, except for a relative that you know, and you know what they put in it, you don't know what they putting in your food or on your food. And a lot of it is to get you addicted. One of the biggest addiction to habits is food. That's the biggest habit. And it's all about the preservatives and the additives and the seasoning that keep you coming back. You don't even taste the food. You know, you taste the seasoning, and it hooks you up. It's a drug. Food is a drug. I mean, it affects the body. It affects the mind and everywhere. Brother Hendrick got his hand up. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, brother. Just real quick, because you know I'm a health fanatic too, for most of the part. But anyway, I'm gonna make it simple. Red meat, beef and pork, will stay in your body, in your bowels, for up to a year before it comes out. That's why it's not good for us. And the last point I'm gonna tell you, stay away from everything white. Sugar, salt, white rice, because rice is really brown. It ain't white, it's brown. White bread, milk, that stuff. Stay away from that. Drink a lot of water and no red meat. You know, use honey instead of sugar, and you got a good chance. And eat green as much as you can. And it's that simple.
Let me just say this, brother. I used to teach a parenting class. I used to tell the parent, you got to get in physical shape. You can't raise kids just watching TV. You got to be able to move and watch. Same way as a teacher. You can't just sit at your desk. You got to walk around that class, and you got to show them that you got energy. And you got to have an energy to raise a family. And you have to have an energy to deal with the struggle. You got to be in physical shape 24 hours, 7 days a week. You're soldiers. As all our great leaders say, you may not be at war, but you're definitely in a war. And you know, you can't, getting big is not fat. It is your body telling you you're eating the wrong thing. It's called swell. You're swelling up. And I'm just telling you, brother, we put emphasis on nutrition and physical fitness. Nation of Islam. And I don't know when Elijah Muhammad wrote the book, Eat to Live. And you drill, brother, you drill. There's a difference between getting in shape to play ball, but getting in shape to live longer, to be more active, to be able to interact with your children, and be able to defend yourself. You never know when you have to walk 10 miles. You never know when you have to, you know, people don't understand the concept of having a vision for the future. You know, things change, climates change. You never know when you're gonna have to walk miles to get food or to get water. You know, you see all these other people that are going through that right now. But it's like, I used to tell my kids when we drive down the street, what do you really see? You know, and that's what you have to ask people. That's why I say you got to have a consciousness, not just about politics and cultural development, but about the world and about the earth and about the changes and pay attention to it. Many of us are not even paying attention to climate change. You understand? They're not even listening to the fact that they may break down economically in this country. You know, things happen. You know, they think everything that humans made, the earth's gonna be here. The earth is gonna be here, you know, or some other form or aspect of it. But, you know, the environment changes, and you got to have a concept of what it is. That's why you prepare for winter, and you prepare for fall, and you prepare for summer, because it changes, you know. And then when winter becomes summer, and summer becomes winter, and you don't even know it, you know, that's because you're not conscious. But anyway, yeah, the state of health, you go by morbidity and mortality, and what's killing you and what's making you sick. The pandemic had a profound effect. Millions of people died all over the world. You understand? And that wasn't the first pandemic where people died all over the world. And most viruses, from polio to smallpox, wiped out millions of people till they found cures for it and things of this nature. Sometimes the earth just cleaned it up, or the environment, the weather. But my point to you is, yeah, we always put an emphasis on physical fitness and nutrition. You understand? Some of us pay attention, some of us don't. It's hard to tell people what to eat and what not to eat. You know, you preach all you want. Once they hook, that's like telling the crackhead, put that pipe down. You know, I said, put that fork down, put them chitlins down. You know, hey, every year. And the advertisement blows people's mind. They put them big old food things in front of you, and they talk about have people biting on them and eating it. And if you're not strong, I got to tell my kids, I say, when you pass by a crack house, will you stop? They say, no. I said, what do you think food stands are? Treat them just like a crack house. Drive right by them. Make your own hamburger. Make your own French fries. Make your own food. Get your salads and things. You have to teach them that. If not, the world will change them. They'll be bringing chips into your house. You understand? And it's just that. But nutrition is something we always emphasize. And we always emphasize, well, you know, the drug thing, you know, that's a whole new different party. And you know, but a lot of us have stopped smoking cigarettes, and a lot of people have stopped drinking, and a lot of people have stopped using drugs. And it's because of the consciousness and the movement. But I think we need to do more studies and more research. Mental illness is a profound thing. It's affecting us. And the only way you stay mentally strong is to stay active and conscious, and don't let the TV depress you, and don't let envy and greed depress you, because you can't have. There's a disease out there called the wants, and the only cure is to have. Don't want nothing but good health, a good life, a good consciousness, and be about something. Be about something. What are you really about? You know, don't just be about eating. Don't be just about partying. Be about something substantive. Each person on this panel is about something, you know? And we want to encourage our children and the people around us by example. By example, you have to preach to them, just be about something around people. You understand? A purpose. Have a purpose in life. What is your purpose? And have a value. Dr. Alexander tell you, it's important for you to get a philosophy. And what is your Black philosophy? Is it Malcolm? See? Is it Garvey? Is it Harriet Tubman? Is it Dr. Karenga? There are philosophers out there. Is it Kwame Ture? You understand? But what philosophy? Because most of us, many of us are American by habit and by desire. And you got to get out of that, because that's a killer right there. It's American to eat American food and greed. Eat food and throw it away while other people starving and don't even think about it in the world. Build weapons to dominate and oppress, but won't share food with people in famine. You know, all of that. But we always talk about nutrition. Yes, sir. And health. And
right.
It's important that you make it a part of your family curriculum.
Brother CB?
Yes, sir.
That it?
Okay, I got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Parenting. I mean, you had a conversation yesterday and we talked about your father, we talked about your mom and parenting. How would you, I work at a high school as well, and I see a lot of things with the parents. I have an outlook that parents are friends with their kids in a lot of respects. But what would be your outlook on just what you see in parenting today?
Well, they don't call them families no more and parents no more, they're households, because there are different structures and different layers. There used to be when a woman without a husband, they called the kids bastards. And at the same time, when welfare first started, the man couldn't be in the house and all that type of stuff. That had a profound effect. Youth, immature youth having children, just they want to have a baby, but they don't understand that baby's going to grow. And they haven't gotten the maturity enough to help raise it, or the resources that it takes and the energy that it takes. For some, there's still some strong families out there, you know, and there's some strong single parents out there. I mean, you know, and then you have the extended family, the augmented. I mean, Dr. Parham wrote in Black Psychology about the different structures of families. I can't remember them all of them, but they talked about, you know, in the South, when the parent died or both parents died, aunts and cousins took them in. You know, they kept the families together. Today, it's a different for some people. As you say, you try to out-twerk your daughter. And, you know, you got people just being American. You know, American families are messed up. They always killing each other and just doing crazy things, man. But they don't. They act like we the only ones that have family problems or parenting problems and things of this nature. Nobody, look at them parents drove their kids with giving them guns and all this stuff, but, you know, teaching them racism and teaching them they're superior to other people, that's a sickness. My point to you is that, yes, we have some people with family issues, but everybody have them. You understand? Then you have mixed races having children, and it's confusion. And so you look at some families and you say, oh, wow. But then again, you know, there are families that are doing good, man. They sending their kids to Morehouse, sending their kids to Spelman, sending their kids to college. You know, I used to work at juvenile hall, and Machinda worked there too. And people was going there and they said, oh, look at our next generation. That's not our next generation. That's a part of them. We got kids in college. Why don't you talk about them? See, it's easy to talk about the negative with families that are dysfunctional or having problems. You understand? But that's a result of racism and oppression, especially when they target Black communities and things of this nature. But the point is that you have to be strong. I mean, you have to be committed to making sure your children don't let the world change them, that they're here to get the world to be an example and an image for other young kids. And that's important. And they got to be able to resist peer pressure. You know, there's a lot of stress on children. I think Kwame talked about, there was some elementary kids giving each other oral sex. And then a couple other brothers that I talked to, they said they knew about it in elementary school. You understand? Where they get it from? They saw their parents doing it or something, or saw it in the movies or something that their parents took them to. And so, you know, you can't, we all the product of our environment. So if there's problems, the environment caused them. You understand? If you want to cut down on the majority of problems, the majority got to be the example for the minority that's coming up. That's why the ninth grade got to be an example for the eighth grade. When we went to the independent schools, they created a culture of learning and studying. So when another kid come in, he picks up that culture. But if you got a school of chaos, a community of chaos, you know, then that's going to produce chaos. But I wouldn't blame it on the parents. I blame everything on society and the institutions that created the images that they have in their concept. There that picture is. That's a strong picture there, brother. That's a real, I see you coming on with your braids. That's great.
Right on.
That's great, man. Rahh, Brother Renoco right there in the middle. That's good. Who's the brother behind? Is that Dr. What? No, you right there, Dr. I mean, Dr. Alexander.
Pastor John Jackson, good brother.
That's the minister. Okay.
Yeah, he kind of like trained under Jeremiah Wright. He was at his church, Trinity in Chicago, and now he's in Gary. Yeah.
I'm going to say this about Christianity. Those that abuse it, a lot of people use it for liberation. And they got a Black liberation theology. And Martin Luther King movement was a Christian movement, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Those that use it for struggle, to empower people and organize people for struggle and service, feeding, clothing, and helping people build homes and stuff like that. You know, that's why you got to understand that spirituality is something all of us have and desire to put it somewhere. And we just hope that it come up positive. But the institutions of Christianity, how it started, not the first church, that was in Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Optic Church, as Dr. Ben said, Coptic Church. The European took them over and corrupted them. They corrupted religion, spirituality. I think our first religion was animism, believing in nature and believing that God was in everything, the trees, the fruit, the animals, and that everything was divinely put here for us. The European turned it into a human being and messed it up and then put it in his image. And so that's corrupt. But anyway, and the Bible is something they wrote. But the real understanding of spirituality is life. Life. You know. And that's why Rashiki talked about that book And that's what Jabal is talking about in that book, about the corruption of spirituality. And we'll get into that when he gets on.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Brother CB, this was an excellent idea, and I enjoyed all of it. And everybody that participated, I appreciate you being here.
Okay,
So
next Monday, I'd like to ask Kwamanon and Dr. Alexander, and let's do a thing on the relevancy in the history of Juneteenth. Next Monday is the 19th, and we all participate, us three, and have a discussion on Juneteenth from the standpoint of the East Coast and the West Coast. Me and Rashidi and Hembrick and Machinda, and we'll be there too. And we'll invite as many people as we can, because they need to get an understanding of that history, because they think it's Black Independence Day, about that. I ain't saying we shouldn't celebrate anytime you can, but know what really happened. You understand? So, all right, everybody got their homework. Let's get ready for Monday. Let's turn it out.
Yeah, I hope everybody come to that. Yeah. So now, next Wednesday, we got Brother Messiah. Guess he's named after Malcolm, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So we got a young brother coming on. I think he's around 20 years old. And the topic is, who's pulling the strings? So that should be very interesting, this young brother coming on. So again, Brother CB, excellent topic, having Professor Rahh go through some history here. Wonderful.
Before you sign off, they're having Juneteenth celebrations all over. They say one of the biggest ones in Buffalo, New York. But it started in Texas. Anyway, we'll get into all of that. And Sister Lee walking the mile to get the holiday. Lerone Bennett, before he passed, really criticized her for that, pushing that. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that. It's going to be a fun thing, man. There's a lot of good writings about Juneteenth. All right.
All right. So each one teach one in conscious. Each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Have a good evening, everybody.
We're taking a pause, bro.
Taking a pause.